Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Looking at NFL Wildcard on Saturday, kicking it off with the Ravens and the Steelers here in Baltimore. Also going to have an episode up for the other Saturday game on Thursday between the Chargers and the Texans. And then everything Sunday and Monday, we're going to have a player props episode specifically for all those games. Only player prop looks in those ones, and that'll be coming out on Friday for all those games. So we got plenty of NFL action this week. Also want to get a giveaway going. Haven't done this one in a while. So go ahead and jump in the comments. Give me your first touchdown scorer for both the Ravens and the Steelers in the comments of this video. And anybody who gets it right, we'll throw you in the raffle to win the $100 that we've been giving away when anybody gets that right. So jump in the comments with that. If that all sounds good, give that video a like. Let's get right into it. Kicking things off with the Pittsburgh offense, and it has been bad, man. Now, it is going to get George Pickens back, so there's going to be at least some improvement to the pass game, you have to imagine. But they've lost 4 in a row now, and they are floundering, and they have, in that time frame, on offense, 31st in pass EPA. So you can see here on the season, they're at 19th. Still the fewest, I should say, passing yards on the season. And the rush game been a little bit better, 11th in rush yards, but still that rush EPA 24th. And in the last 4 weeks, as they've been really, really bad, as we know, and lost all 4 of those games, also in the bottom 10 there in rush EPA during that stretch as well. So not much to like here. And if you look at the Ravens defense, actually what's very interesting is that much maligned pass defense has been number 1 in pass EPA for the last 6 weeks in the NFL, not just 4 weeks, 6 weeks in the league. So you can see that pass EPA on the season up to 14th, whereas it was much worse for most of the season. Been stepping up big time, especially on the outside where the corners have been strongest for this team. And then the rush game continues to be the best, if not the best, one of the top 3 best defensive rushing units in the league. They're limiting to the fewest amount of rush yards, 3rd in rush EPA, and we do expect the Steelers to be playing from behind in this one, mostly because I think the Ravens will have the success on offense via the run game. As you look at the other side of the ball, this is the number 1 rated rush offense in terms of yards, 2nd in terms of EPA, and 1st in pass EPA as well, despite 7th in passing yards. But just as good in the underlying metrics, as we say, as well in the straight yards and the core metrics you see there for them. And Pittsburgh on defense, I do think they'll have some success through the air, limiting the pass yards to the Ravens. Despite being 25th in limiting pass yards, they're 8th in pass EPA, and the rush yards really, really good, but actually a little bit more vulnerable. And we've seen this Ravens offense rush to the tune of 344 yards in the 2 games they played this season, better than 6 yards per carry. So the Steelers defense, which we've talked about as a very, very good rush defense all season, actually has improved a ton since the beginning of the season in the pass game and is now stronger in that area where I think, it's going to be nasty weather. So I don't know that we'll see Lamar trying too many passes anyway. If they need him, he'll be available. But I think we're going to see a lot of rushing attempts here for the Ravens and obviously riding the big back Derrick Henry. Let's kick it off with Lamar Jackson because I think the best prop for him is going to be the under 216.5 passing yards. I just don't think he'll need to do it on the attempts or the yards specifically. He went under in both games versus Pittsburgh this season, failed to exceed 207 yards in either of those games. And Zay Flowers is not necessarily, even if he is out there, going to be 100%. That's a big part of what this comes down to, is that I don't know that they're going to have the short game available for him to get there in the yards. And obviously the yak for Zay is huge. And to be fair, his ADOT, talking about Zay Flowers right now, has been very good over the course of the last 4 or 5 weeks. He's obviously huge, right? 74 catches, more than 1,000 yards on the season. The clear-cut number 1 receiver for this squad. So that's the sort of the scary part about taking an over for Lamar. That's why I lean to the under. I haven't bet this one and put it on the card. I will say that. This is more of a lean still to this point. But you also see the lack of accuracy. I think the plus money for an interception might actually be a look this week. 6 interceptions in his last 5 matchups versus Pittsburgh. And like I'm saying here, Pittsburgh 6th in terms of pass EPA on defense, and we've seen them struggle more on the run game on defense, where this season, especially for Baltimore, 344 yards on the ground, 6+ yards per carry. I think you ride that to victory. And I don't know that Lamar is going to need to get to 200 yards passing to win this game in what should be a pretty low scoring affair in that nasty weather. Now, this is a bet. Despite the fact that Russ is probably going to have to play from behind a lot in this game, I don't like his passing yards. So we're going under 207.5 there. Like I keep saying, Baltimore turned things around entirely in the pass game on defense. 1st in pass EPA defensively in the last 6 weeks. Not just a really small sample size, but 6 straight games there of showing really marked improvements to the tune of the best defense, basically passing-wise, in the league. And in the last 4 weeks for Russ, under 211 yards in all 4. He actually has a negative EPA per play in the last 9 games as well. So basically the last half of the season for the Steelers, they've had Russ in there and everything just sort of fell apart after a few weeks at the beginning where things looked good. He's now going up against a defense that probably still isn't getting the credit on the and through the air as far as the pass defense for Baltimore. So we're still getting some value on the yards because we've seen Russ as low as about 176 yards on the season. Even with Pickens back in this one, I just don't think it'll be enough on the outside to beat those corners for Baltimore. Got to go with one more under, obviously correlated to Russ here. We're going to fade Pat Freiermuth. Under 4.5 catches is the look here. And once again, Baltimore first pass EPA last 6 weeks, but also George Pickens back. It's going to at least eat into his usage, right? We've seen him up at about a 39% target share during the weeks that George Pickens was missing. Well, Pickens is back. And in the 8 games that Pickens has been out there with Russ Wilson behind center, under in 5 of those 8 games. And I do think this is a defense that, while it has been vulnerable against the tight end this season, 1, it's improved, as I've said now 100 times. 2, this is a matchup for Freiermuth that has just not yielded much for him in the last basically 3 games versus the Ravens. Really the last 4 or 5 games playing against Baltimore, just not really good numbers for him. 7 total catches versus Baltimore in the last 3 games. So you know that he's not necessarily got the history here against Baltimore on his side. So I do like to fade him on the catches. The yards, he's got a pretty good ADOT for a tight end, but at the same time, you could fade the yards as well. But I think 4.5 is just too high, where I don't think Russ is going to be completing that many passes. And an over here, I gave this out last week, and I got to go right back to it because I think the usage for Jaylen Warren was really odd last week. Plus, we saw Najee then get kind of banged up at the end of the game, and that did bring Jaylen Warren back out onto the to the field there to close things out. Maybe they were just saving him for this round of the playoffs. I mean, they could have used the win last week, I suppose, but more importantly, like now he comes in as the healthier guy once again, and it was the first time in the last 4 games that that he was outsnapped by Najee was last week. So I'm not going to. I'm looking at that one as more of an anomaly, and in a game where I do think he should once again outsnap Najee, I think the receiving yards are the play again. 19.5. He went cleanly over both of those, 27 and 44, I believe, in the first 2 games against Baltimore this season. And I do think that Russ is going to have to get that short stuff going, especially once the run game is stuffed by this Baltimore defense, which continues to lead the league in that sense with the rushing yards. So I don't think the rush yards are going to be there for either running back necessarily, but I think you're still safe for a very nice hit rate, by the way. 19.5 receiving yards for Jaylen Warren, something he's gone over nearly 75% of the time this season. So I think he's going to be in another good situation to rack up the receiving yards. That is all the time I have for you guys in this one. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that page and come back to check out the Texans and the Chargers. Going to have a few player props in there for you as well, with some matchup breakdowns on top of it. And also, if you do want to join the live show, we're still going to be running this every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll be looking at the NBA this week since we don't have NFL, but next Monday, also back into the NFL stuff. And we'll have those videos coming out this weekend for the player prop looks for Wildcard Saturday and Sunday. So best of luck with everything this week and this weekend. And until I see y'all next, happy betting.